May time about now, third week of May, is a good time for harvesting a rhubarb. I tend to go for stalks that are at least 10 inches long, wide, and also the ones with the largest leaves. I leave the ones alone which look stringy or too thin and cut them at the base with shears. You can use a sharp knife, obviously, serrated, or you can break the stalks by snapping them near the base. You have to remove the leaves and I put them on the compost heap. I got 4 of these stalks of rhubarb, and this is from the plot, and this is 4 I've got left. I cut the ragged ends off, I then washed it and I chopped them into 1 inch pieces, and I use this bowl for cooking in the oven. The first thing I did was with the rhubarb, I boiled it, only lightly cover the rhubarb with water, and I added just a small amount, just a dessert spoon of ordinary granulated sugar. Once it had boiled, I didn't leave it to go very stringy. I put it straight into this Pyrex dish, and then you can use crumble mix. I only had scone mix left, but it'll do. If you only have scone mix left, then put again a dessert spoon of sugar in. Don't overdo it with the sugar, because if you get rhubarb at the right time, when it's like this, very firm, nice long stalks like this, it's quite sweet in its own way anyway. And this particular variety, which was there on the allotment when I first got there, is ideal for making rhubarb crumble. I mixed the sugar in actually with a scone mix, put it in the oven at about 180 to 200. It's a fan assisted oven, my oven. And I gave it a good tried half an hour, but it hadn't browned on top, so I did it for about 45 minutes, turned the heat down a little bit, and serve it with custard made from custard powder, and it's beautiful. And that's a good way of using things on your allotment, and rhubarb in particular. But most of the plant has to be left and is not to be harvested. And if you carry on just doing what I said, then you can harvest right through until September, only choosing the thickest stalks with the largest leaves, but only just take what you need. And I don't put the rhubarb in water. I just cut it as is and then try and use it over the next couple of days. I suppose you could keep it in the fridge. I have the broccoli, and it's late May, and it's ready for planting out. I've got some netting, fine mesh netting to protect this. I know that these tend to do well on the allotment where I am. Some plants don't do well, but I've got 2 things that I think will work, and I think these should be okay, but we'll have to see. I do use sprays on these, and I diluted just a little bit of eucalyptus oil. Sometimes I use a bit of vinegar and sometimes coffee grounds around them to try and discourage slugs. And insects don't tend to like the vegetables if you put a little tiny hint of something like old eucalyptus oil or something, but only you need a couple of drops in a watering can. And I found that just the smell of it puts them off. Out the broccoli tonight, and basically what I've done is dug out a square. As you can see, I've put a little post in the middle, put these little green plastic protectors on top, and bought this online, which is garden netting. And basically this one's 2.1 meters by 4.5. It's a mesh there, and that is to go over this digging I've done here. As you can see, it's very clay rich, this soil, and I've got the broccoli here, and once the net goes over, I've got myself a collection of stones here, and also some timber as well, which I've just been collecting some timber there, as you can see. And then of course here's my broccoli to go in there, and I've got my trowel and basically just put it in on very tough clay soil like this. What I've done is basically spaced the plants out, spaced the broccoli out, and I've got 3 lines of broccoli, and the idea is basically just to get them in, and then I'm going to smash some of the clay soil up to go in them. They grow right in this soil. It is actually, technically speaking, clay is actually a rock when I looked it up, but that's the challenge you've got of growing things. With the broccoli planted in, we noticed that on this clay soil there are an awful lot of slugs. The slugs actually live between 6 inches and 1 feet below the ground. So on clay soil like this, we've been going around seeing if we can spot slugs, and when we find them, obviously they're got rid of. And so I've now got 3 rows here of the broccoli, and the next job is obviously to get that net on over there and use some stones and some old timber to hold it on. Lessons to learn for next year for me: got 3 of these Oullin, I think they're called Gage. They're Gage plums. They're a beautiful yellow plum. And I noticed that we hardly got any crop last year, and this year again. I thought it was brown rot, and I looked it up, but it isn't. It's something much simpler. Basically, I need to net it because it comes into blossom very early. It comes into blossom in March, late March, and then obviously in April, even in early May. We had a couple of really frosty nights in April, and this is the frost damage, as you can see. There it is there, and again there. But luckily some of the fruit has set on this tree. But it's a big lesson for me to learn, because I've got 3 of these beautiful Gage trees, and I thought it was the tree, and I was even thinking of digging them up, because I thought, oh well, you know, they're just too temperamental. But it's not. It's all about netting them. So I'm going to have to build a construction around all 3 of the plum trees. Protected, such as here, you can see that there will be some plums. So basically I'll probably end up with only about 60 plums on 3 trees, where I would have got absolutely hundreds. But it's my fault, and that's one thing about gardening you've got to learn. Eucalyptus oil, a little bit out of date, and that's what I've been using. And I tried an experiment here on broad beans, and these were eaten alive last year, but by putting a little bit of eucalyptus oil, just about 5 or 6 drops into the watering can, suddenly these have really recovered. I also tried an experiment. I put some vinegar all around the outside and around the soil, and also a load of coffee grounds around them, and they're also surrounded by garlic plants as well, so it's kind of like belt and brace them. So I'll see how they come on. I don't really want to put anything which is, you know, don't really want to put slug pellets down, and I'll just see how I can get on by using for some of the apple trees, particularly, as you can see here, I've got one here. It's the Bramleys, and these have only been in for a couple of years, and already, as you can see, the blossom is just about going, and it looks to me as if fruit will be setting on this one, and on this tree here next to it. And some of these are Discovery, and this is a Bramley here, this one here, and it looks to be quite happy here. And again, another apple tree here, slightly more late blossoming. People did say that these, you know, the apples do grow particularly well here, so I put a load of these. These are on grafts, and the next door has got a crab apple still in blossom, as you can just see there. These wild varieties seem to be in blossom a lot later, and obviously these survived the frost, evolutionary survived the frost. Not such a tasty apple, but then with the crab apple, the idea, I suppose, is evolutionary, a tough survivor. But you can see here, as I'm going around, these are the ones that are going to be successful this year. Only on their 2nd year. They were quite tall, the grass, when I got them, and so I'm very pleased with the apple. Quite looking forward to this chicory. As you can see, it really has an enormous top on it, and I'm going to have a try and see what I can grind up to the roots and make myself some chicory coffee, so I'm really looking forward to that one. On a bit of a tight budget when it comes to things like nets and protections, so basically this year gone for this netting, Pound World, and basically they had some fleece cover, so I just use the arches from the fleece cover and their netting. You get 2 for £1, and underneath here I've put in some seedlings rather than growing from seed. These are various cabbage varieties. There's a red cabbage and a green variety. Spaced them out, netted them, and used basically stones, old bricks and whatever, just to try and keep them safe from predation. similarly used also for other vegetables as well, and in this case here, this particular sort of homemade cloche protection, basically again using the wire hoops from the fleece frost protection with the cheaper net, and it's been set on an east-west direction, just to see how we get on. Right, my homemade insecticide this year has been some last year's onions that have divided, that have been left in the ground, some garlic bulbs crushed up using a pestle and mortar, put in some old eucalyptus oil that's really gone off, and also some old spices that again are well past their best sell-by date. I've mashed them up in the pestle and mortar and added some more, and I put them into this old chicken manure container. I'm just going to leave that to steep with, so I've got my spices, my my old onions and some old garlic crushed up and some sliced. I'm just going to leave that to steep. Then basically I can then just drain what I want from it, dilute it out into one of my watering cans I'll use specifically, and use this as my insecticide wash. And I've also been putting things like coffee grounds around where the ants come in, and loads and loads of old pickling vinegar, any pickling jars I've got, like gherkins or onions. I'm putting them around where the ants are, because apparently that works as a deterrent. This pear tree at the back had a lot of problems with it, had canker, and all I did this year was put some solution on it of garlic, crushed it up, and that's where the canker was, as you can see, and further up the trunk. And this year, as you can see, it's rewarded me, because now, yippee, I'm going to get some pears, as you can see from there. So it's pollinated, and there's one around the front which is even better, but this one here I'd given up on. As you can see, there's a bit of canker, but all I did try was a garlic wash going down the branches, and it seems to have done the trick. So there we go. Same again with this pear tree. It was heavily cankered and had no chance at all, and I gave it the garlic wash, and it's a bit like the song, isn't it, really? Medicinal compound, isn't it? But the garlic wash seems to do the trick with fruit trees. I did feed it a lot with a high potassium feed, and it now seems to be behaving itself and actually behaving as a fruit tree, so I look forward to getting some crops of nice. Really happy today, because finally my flowering Easter cactus is well past Easter. We're now end of May, has decided that it's Easter. There it is. So I've had this for a year or so, and just kept it, and then the first couple of little flowers have finally come out, so quite exciting. So they do reflower. This year I also tried growing sweet corn from seed. The actual time for germination for these is incredibly long. They quote 7 to 21 days. Mine didn't really sort of start showing until 24 days later. And I've brought some of them inside, because outside the lovely insects have started to have a pop. 3 have come up in this one. There's a little one there and these ones here. And only 2 or 3 of this one. And 4 of my sweet corns have come up on this one. So, all in all, I have got some more outside, but they're not so advanced. But I might be too late, because looking at other people down where I'm in the allotment, their sweet corn are already sort of 10 to 12 inches high, some a lot higher. So I've got these in Wilco, but we'll have to see. Because last year I grew them, and they got sweet corn on them, but then the frost killed them, so I just missed out.